and OU-Tulsa Police Chief Walter Evans to put this together in literally a day and a half in order to join in this nationwide peaceful demonstration. We also welcome the rest of our OU family here today, coming out in support. We are Sooners for Black Lives. We are all grieving and upset about the recent violent acts against people of color. These losses have impacted communities of color in deep and excruciatingly painful ways, as they represent so many others before them who have also suffered untimely deaths from similarly tragic events. Their names will soon be replaced with others if we continue to allow systemic racism in thoughts, words, and deeds to plague our nation. While we process the anger and despair these events have evoked among so many of us, it's important to remember who we are as the OU family and as the OU-TU School of Community Medicine. Our mission is to serve and educate. We are a community of healers and educators who have dedicated our lives to improving the human condition of others. This includes the physical and mental anguish people of color are suffering from as a result of bias, discrimination, and injustice. As the OU-Tulsa family, we are proud to stand together in solidarity, acknowledging the fact that racism exists is the first imperative step in committing to change.
We support those who are demanding justice, and we want to take actions that lead to immediate and lasting change. We have formed a task force composed of faculty, students, staff, that has already begun working to institute change within our community and our institution. We plan to provide resources to educate members of the School of Community Medicine family on the toll and destruction that racism and discrimination take on minorities in their communities, while supporting our OU-Tulsa and School of Community Medicine members most affected by bias, overt, and systemic racism. We will provide a venue and resources for community education on the disparities that minorities face that traditionally has kept us at arm's length from the American dream. Finally, we will continue to take a deep look into our own institutional makeup to identify opportunities to improve equity and diversity of our faculty, staff, students, and leadership. Many of you know you want to help, but don't know exactly how you can help. One thing you can do is join us for further conversation about race at the OU Diversity and Inclusion Panel following this demonstration from about noon to 1:30 p.m. There is an email from President Schuman yesterday that has the link for that panel discussion. It is no longer enough to simply be against racism. We have to be a collective voice that adamantly and bravely speaks out against injustice whenever we witness it. We have to begin to destigmatize the word privilege. We have to understand that we all have privilege in some way. Having privilege doesn't mean you haven't had to work for things. It means you have been presented with more opportunities because of that privilege. And the Black and brown members of our community lack opportunities because of the color of their skin. And recognizing that there are members of our community that have privilege just because of the color of their skin is a very important first step. And finally, reach out to your friends most impacted by these recent circumstances to simply let them know you stand with them.
I don't think it's hard for any of us to feel what America is feeling right now. near the hearts of people who are hurting. We have social media, we have news. Every time we flip it on, we can see the anguish and the hurt, the tragedy that is facing many people today. America is hurting, communities are hurting, people are hurting. And as a young black man, I can't put into words the feeling of anguish that I've felt year after year as I watched people who looked like me be killed and no sense of justice to the name be brought. Trayvon Martin, Tamar Rice, Mike Brown, Philando Castile, Eric Gardner, George Floyd, and so many others. These sons, these brothers, husbands, fathers, community leaders, lives snuffed out way before their time to go. But in this point of tragedy, this point of anguish, right now we have the perfect opportunity to make it different and pave a road that's free of racism, prejudice, and eliminate injustice that we have today. Let me be clear, this is not black versus white. This is not police versus civilians. This is a fight for humanity. This is a fight that every person has their decent right for life. And that's what we're fighting for. It's a battle of good and evil, a battle against life and death. And we are able to preserve this life for everybody because everybody's life is sacred. We are connected as one body by 99.9% of our genome. And it's time that we start addressing things as that. If we have a wound in our right arm and our left arm is completely fine, are we supposed to ignore the wound in our right arm or pretend like it doesn't matter? I mean, we could, right? We can make sure, it's fine. Our left arm is fine. But guess what? That wound will start to fester and infect, and it will spread throughout your whole body so that the whole body will suffer ultimately. And we need to treat it just as such. We need to treat the wounds of our communities and reach out to the people who are suffering the most in these moments and these problems that we're facing today. In the same regard, let's reach out, let's protect our communities. Let's reach out and protect our communities of color, our black communities, our LGBTQ plus communities, our immigrant communities, our religious communities, anybody who is reaching or feeling some part of prejudice or racism or marginalization needs to be cared for. Everyone, now is the time. The issues have come to light, and we have a global platform that everybody's looking, that we can declare that wrong is wrong and what right is right. I implore you all to approach every person that you meet with intention, empathy, and sensitivity. Take time to reach out to all of your neighbors, especially your black neighbors and communities of colors that have been marginalized in ways that you can't even fathom. Be vigilant and use your voice to call out anything that is wrong. Don't waver, don't be silent. Your silence empowers wrongdoing. Reject your comfort zones and have discussions concerning race, experiencing any societal plights that may be felt. Reach deep within yourselves to assess and identify any fragments of prejudice or bias and address them. Try your very best to truly know and understand your neighbors so that we can all be allies and find safe havens within each other in times of distress. Treat life, every life, as sacred and valued because it is. Family, now is the time to protect and serve one another and hold each other accountable, not tear each other down and remain complacent. Now is the time to truly make America great and whole for all people, not cower in our bunkers of division and lack of understanding. In time, I think we can truly proclaim that all lives matter and it won't be an empty tune. But in order to accomplish that, we have to first acknowledge and affirm that Black lives matter. And we will no longer ignore the disproportionate and unnecessary loss of lives any longer. Enough is enough. Black lives matter.
If you are doing